In May 2025, Germany entered a new political phase with Friedrich Merz becoming the country's chancellor. This came after a highly competitive federal election held in February 2025, an election fueled by Germany's ongoing economic downturn. Merz came to power leading an unusual coalition known as the Red-Black Coalition. It brought together the center-right Christian Democratic Union (CDU) and Christian Social Union (CSU), along with the center-left Social Democratic Party (SPD). The new government was essentially a centrist coalition leaning slightly to the right, and this was clear from its political and economic agenda from day one. From the moment Friedrich Merz took office, he stated clearly and openly that Germany's #1 problem is the economy. He didn't come to make small or temporary adjustments. He came to overhaul the entire economic system from the ground up to rescue the country from a recession that's been dragging on for years. Merz said his main objective is to revive Germany's economy, which has barely moved since 2021. Germany, once known as Europe's economic engine, is now suffering from low growth, weak investment, declining industrial output, and a shortage of skilled workers. Because of this, the new government promised a bold set of economic policies focused on several key points. 1. Cutting bureaucracy. Merz believes that Germany's heavy administrative procedures and endless paperwork are driving companies and investors away to countries like the Netherlands, Poland, and even Eastern Europe. 2. Reducing corporate taxes. Merz announced he would push to reduce the corporate tax rate from around 30% to 25% or lower to encourage big companies to stay in Germany. 3. Attracting foreign investment. The government started taking practical steps in 2025 to make Germany an investment-friendly destination. For example, in the third quarter of the year, they announced tax incentives for companies building clean energy factories or technology research centers. 4. Supporting innovation. Merz believes Germany must move beyond traditional manufacturing and push into fields like biotechnology, renewable energy, and digital transformation. The government dedicated a massive budget to scientific research, universities, and partnerships with the private sector. They announced a plan to increase innovation funding by 60% within 2 years, jumping from €12 billion in 2024 to €19 billion in 2026. 5. Attracting skilled workers. Germany is suffering from a major shortage of skilled labor, especially in programming, engineering, and nursing. So the government promised to make immigration easier for qualified workers from outside Europe, including the Arab world. In September 2025, the government introduced the Opportunity Card, part of the Smart Immigration Program, allowing skilled individuals to enter Germany and start working even before securing a job offer. The goal is to bring in 400,000 skilled workers per year starting in 2026. All these points became known as Merz's economic agenda, a pro-business, pro-investment, market-driven agenda aimed at rebuilding investor confidence inside and outside the country. But of course, such promises require massive funding, which leads us to another major challenge: Germany's strict debt rules and how Merz tried to bypass them and failed, turning public opinion against him. Why did Germany fall into prolonged recession? Germany has always been known for its financial caution. The German constitution itself prevents the government from significantly increasing debt except in extreme situations. This rule was introduced in 2009 after the global financial crisis to protect future generations from excessive debt. When Merz took office in 2025, he faced a major dilemma. He wanted to invest massively in infrastructure, energy, and technology. But existing laws wouldn't allow such spending unless the money came from Germany's regular revenue, which was already weak because of the recession. His only option was to bypass the debt rule, but without triggering a constitutional conflict. So before he officially became chancellor, he pushed for a political amendment allowing the government to exclude certain types of investments from debt limits, especially those expected to bring long-term economic returns. As a result, The German government announced it would open the door to nearly €1 trillion in additional investments in the coming years, a number unheard of in Germany due to its strict financial rules. From that amount, €500 billion were allocated to infrastructure, trains, highways, ports, and small-town development. Another portion went to defense spending due to rising tensions in Europe and US pressure on Germany to increase its NATO contribution. The rest went to renewable energy and smart electricity networks. The government also created a €500 billion off-budget fund, meaning it wouldn't appear in official debt calculations. This caused huge controversy among economists and politicians who argued that it was a hidden loophole to bypass the constitution without admitting it. The idea behind all this was to fix years of infrastructure neglect, create jobs, and jumpstart the economy, but things didn't go smoothly. Criticism and backlash as soon as the Merz government announced its financial plans and reliance on borrowing. A wave of criticism came from economic research centers and financial institutions. Despite the government's claim that the borrowed money would go toward long-term investments, reality showed something completely different. German research institutes like the IFO in Munich and the DIW in Berlin published reports in August and October 2025 showing that half of the borrowed money was going toward daily expenses, not long-term investment. For example, €17 billion were spent in 3 months on energy subsidies for middle-income households. €8.2 billion on random tax cuts for small and medium businesses with no conditions for production or employment. €5.6 billion on fuel tax exemptions for farmers and the transport sector. Money experts say should have gone to electric transport or high-speed rail. Around €2.4 billion were direct cash payments to calm public anger after prices increased. Germany's worst economic phase in years. Germany has been stuck in recession for 4 years since COVID. No real economic growth. In Q2 2025, GDP shrank by 0.2%. In Q3, growth was basically zero. Why? President Donald Trump reinstated high tariffs on German exports, causing Germany's exports to the US to drop to their lowest in 4 years. China increased its exports to Europe with cheaper products after the US closed its market, pushing German companies to fight for their own local market. Inside Germany, political instability made companies unsure about long-term plans due to constant party conflicts and changing decisions. The government says investment will rise from 1.3% of GDP in 2024 to 2.8% in 2026. Which sounds good on paper, but growth forecasts remain weak at 1.3% to 1.5%, far too low for the size of the challenges and debt Germany is taking on. Political consequences. Merz entered office with high approval -57% in June 2025, but by December 2025, his approval dropped to 40%, while dissatisfaction rose from 34% to 56%. People haven't seen real economic improvement, and internal government disputes over issues like military service and pension reform make the coalition look chaotic and divided. Meanwhile, the far-right alternative for Germany, AfD, is gaining ground, reaching 20% or more in some states, a worrying trend for Germany's political and economic stability. If the AfD becomes stronger, companies may hesitate to invest. The political climate will become more tense, and sharp domestic and foreign policy shifts could follow. What Germany really needs now, experts say there's no longer room for experiment or political showmanship. Germany needs strong economic reforms, a clear multi-year economic plan, real investment in infrastructure, renewable energy expansion, digital transformation, and most importantly, a stop to using borrowed money for daily expenses, and directing it toward investments that create jobs and revive the market. Outro YouTube style. If this is your first time watching us, our channel covers everything related to the global economy, from analysis and predictions to detailed breakdowns of financial events around the world. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any updates.